Hello, everybody. It's your Uncle Jim. How you doing tonight? We're here with Kidney Stories, the broadcast tonight, and we were going to talk to our good friend Kent Bressler about his recent business venture. I wanted to give you some idea how the show in general will be laid out. The first half an hour, we usually talk to some guests. The second half an hour, we'll talk about something that's topical in the kidney world, something that has to do with politics. Or can you believe that Steve is going to let me talk about politics? Something that has to do with politics or with new developments in kidney matters. So Kidney Stories 2, here we are. First show. I hope you like it. I'm going to bring on my friend and colleague now. Oh, happy birthday, Jared. Kent Bressler, and we're going to chat a little bit about his business, Kidney Solutions. So, Kent, are you there?
I am.
How you doing,
Jim.
buddy?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Tell us a little bit about your kidney story. Now, before you start, I want to tell our audience something. Kent has one of the coolest kidney stories in kidney story history. And I've asked him to kind of shorten it up tonight so we can spend some time talking about Kidney Solutions, but I will have him back to talk about his story and specifically about preemptive transplants when he comes back, because that is the cool part of his story. But go ahead, Kent, tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, first of all, before I start yakking about myself, I want to thank you for an opportunity to kind of tell people my story, but also talk about Kidney Solutions, which is really near and dear to me. You know, I guess we're here to serve. I don't guess. I know that's what we're supposed to be doing. And serving the Lord is what I really am happy about doing. And you give me the opportunity to talk about kidney disease. I've had it all my life. Didn't know about it till later on, but in my life, early on in my life, but I've had it for a very long time. My story, in short, my brother, who gave me a kidney, well, I actually gave me a kidney in 1987, April 30th. It'll be 33 years upcoming in April. And so that actually started this whole process, but I knew well ahead of that. In 1969, several years before, I knew I had kidney disease because I had protein in my urine. And as you well know, protein in your urine is a no-no. You don't have any control of it, but if you find out that you have protein in your urine, it's time to see somebody about it and time to get an answer to why it's there. It's most likely going to be kidney disease. Anyway, I knew before, when I was drafted in 1970, I had it. And yeah, I progressed. I got transplant, like I said, in 87, but that was after several years of kind of nursing this disease process that I have, FSGS, focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. Essentially, what I was told when I first was diagnosed, that's what you call hardening of the arteries of the kidneys, and your glomerulus just malfunctions, doesn't work, and starts throwing protein. It's progressive, and if not caught in good time, it can be very, very quick and taking you to renal failure. So in short, that's what my story is. Thank God I had two brothers, and Kip gave me one, and Carrie was ready. So there you go.
Tell us a little bit about your transplant. That's the fascinating part of your story. How did that come about, and for the time that it occurred, why was it so unusual?
Well, this whole process that I went through, I was diagnosed early on, probably 1984, and the physician that diagnosed it, Periac Mulgrew in San Antonio, who is a dear friend and a very great nephrologist, still practicing. It's limited, but he biopsied me, and I remember sitting in his hallway waiting to go into his office. It was very, very busy, many people there, and he saunters out and sits down between my wife and I, my wife Kathy, and said, "You know what, Ken, I got to tell you, you got a bad disease." And he proceeded to tell me that I had FSGS, which at that time he sent the biopsy because they had taken it to University of in San Antonio, and then sent it to John Hopkins because they really didn't know the diagnosis at that time. That was in 1987, and they diagnosed it as this FSGS, a focal sclerosis at that time. And so consequently, he told me, "Buddy, you're not going to do well. You're not going to do well on dialysis. We need to get you transplanted." And that's exactly what happened. I had 2 days of dialysis with the day in between, and then I went straight to transplant.
So your brother, Kip.
Right, Kip.
In 1987. Gave you a kidney. And you really did not do extended dialysis at all.
No, sir. No, sir. Jim, I had 2 days of dialysis. One day, I remember the first day I had it, I think they took 10 pounds of water off me, and my creatinine was 17. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Back then, they didn't have, quote, GFR. The analysis that was made was just, your diagnosis was made solely at that point in time by creatinine level. And my level was 17. As you know, and for the people that are listening, it's probably the top end of a creatinine is about 1.1 or 1.2, depending on what lab you use. But mine was 17. And I worked up until the day before I went down for transplant. I actually worked. I had dialysis one day, and I went home. I worked the next day, and then I came back for my second dialysis, and then 2 days after that second dialysis, I was transplanted.
So
I did not want to go on dialysis. I'll be honest with you straight up.
Right.
I did not want to go on dialysis. I knew I'm an RN, and at that time I knew what dialysis was. And back then, and let me tell you, bless these people that are on dialysis. I've been blessed. I've been out, haven't had any dialysis, but I've worked with people that have been on it, and I can tell you what, bless their hearts, they struggle daily, and it's a difficult thing to have to deal with. I chose the route where I wanted to get it done and get a transplant, because I knew that was really going to be my only escape from dialysis and death, because that's the only three things your choices are, right? We've talked about that. You can go to dialysis, you get a transplant, or you can die. It's three choices. So yeah,
the reason your story is so important to me, and I think maybe to the audience, is that really before there was a trend toward preemptive transplant, your doctor suggested it and you made it happen. I mean, years before this became popular. And how many years have you had your transplanted kidney now?
On April 30th, it will be 33 years. 33.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's sure blessing. Let me tell you, that's been a blessing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, how long have you been married to Kathy?
50 years. I don't know how she's done it.
I get a girlfriend, Kent. I keep her 6 weeks. I throw a party for the whole damn block.
listen. If she has been, I just wrote a little editorial for the what is it? Association of Nephrologists, and I wrote an editorial about FSGS, and it's going to be coming out next month. Anyway, I mentioned in there that being a mentor to someone or having a mentor is very important. I think that's what's the most important about kidney disease, is having somebody that's faithful and sound and uses good judgment and gives you good information. If you can hook up with somebody that preferably that you're either married to or deeply in love with, or somebody who has the disease process itself and has been through it, that's your best bet. And those mentors are very important. She's been very important to me. She's been my life. Very, very important part of my life. And she's brought me through some really rough times. It hasn't been easy. Trust me. This hasn't been a cakewalk, but it hasn't been difficult either because of her.
Okay. One more point I wanted to make with this. I'm polycystic. I have PKD.
Yes.
When I was transplanted, there was no way that PKD could affect my transplanted kidney. Tell us about transplanted kidneys and FSGS. How does that work?
Well, you can bet that this FSGS never goes away. If you have that diagnosis of FSGS, they actually, there's several forms of it. I don't want to go into all the forms of it. What I want to tell you is that it can come back. So you can get transplanted, and within hours, actually, that transplant can be overcome by the disease process. And simply put, you lose your kidney. Or you can go 2-3 years, or you can go 5-10. I mean, it varies. And it seems, and I can't prove this with statistics or articles or whatever, but it seems like women have a harder time with rejection in FSGS than men do. And I don't know what the answer is on that. And I don't know what the answer to FSGS is. They've been looking for 40 years. As you know, we have been active with the DOD, which has been doing research on FSGS for 40 years, 30 years, I know for sure. And they're really not any closer than they were when they started. But know what?
Right.
Yeah, you know what? I don't want them to stop looking. Because if they stop looking, well, you're never going to find it. You're never going to find a cure.
Right. But the point is, you had a preemptive transplant, and despite your disease, it has lasted almost 33 years now.
Yes.
That correct?
Yes. I just had
Excellent.
I just had my lab work done last week, and my creatinine was 1.04.
Wow.
And
wow. Congratulations, my friend.
Right. Thank you. Listen, this is God-given, and it's been a blessing. You have to work at it, though. You know that. You can't just cruise along. You've got to make some major adjustments physically, mentally, emotionally, and religiously. You've got to find yourself, and you've got to be your own advocate. No one, even your wife of 50 years, can make decisions for you. You're the one that makes them, so you better be ready to do that.
Right. You're always your own best advocate.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. You can't get somebody. You can't marry someone and be with them for 50 years and hope that you can get them to do what needs to be done for you. You got to do it yourself.
Right.
And that means doctors, that means nurses. You're the one that calls the shots. And I've always said that. I've always been lucky to be able to convey my wishes, and I've had specific wishes, and I've been fortunate. I've been blessed.
That's good. Tell us a little bit about your military and your work history. As I understand it, you went into the military when you were very young.
Yeah, I was 19. I got drafted, and I had gone to school to become an X-ray technician and a lab technician, and fortunately, on my track, I got to do in the Army. I was in the Army for 2 years, stationed at Fort Hood at Darnell Army Hospital. And I was fortunate enough to work in the ER, and I worked in the lab, and I worked in X-ray. And I got a really good look at what medicine was all about, and that's what I wanted to do. And I consequently got out of the military and went right to school. I went into nursing school. Initially wanted to go to nursing, become a nurse anesthetist, and that didn't work out for me. So I stayed sound and went into nursing service, and I got to be in the emergency rooms. I worked in intensive care units and worked my way through patient education and worked my way into administration. And I have had 40 years of RN experience, 22 in the VA and 20 in the private sector. And now I'm retired. Yeah.
Okay. When did you retire, Pat?
I retired 2 years ago, semi-retired. That's when I took, I finished my career. I had 2 years with hospice because I felt that was where, as I got older, I realized that end of life issues that you have, I could help people with those. I have a feeling that my calling has always been to help. I don't know everything. I don't profess to. It's not a matter of me. It's me serving. So I really felt that when I retired, I wasn't going to be happy sitting down, and I wasn't. So we started this 501c called Kidney Solutions.
Okay. Let me ask you one question about the hospice, because I want to make a point here about an issue that I don't think most people are aware of. Sometimes when you go into hospice, you have to make a choice. It's either dialysis or hospice. Sometimes they don't let you do both. Can you discuss that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, as you know, if you go directly into hospice, then all medical issues stop. In other words, if you tap medicines, certain medicines get stopped, except for pain medications. And most of the time, I'm almost certain that dialysis is no. You have to make the choice that you're either coming off if you're on, or you're not going on, because it's not going to be covered. That's just the way it is. Hospice is an end-of-life issue. It's allowing you to be comfortable. It's allowing you and your family to progress to death. But it doesn't have to be like at the last minute. A lot of people don't get to hospice until, really, in all honesty, it's too late. They could enjoy some time with their family, much greater time and much more quality time if they were on hospice earlier. And so That's kind of the way I worked with it. I worked with some patients who didn't want to go on dialysis, and I worked with some patients who were on that wanted to come off. And in that case, either way, it was a blessing to me to get to work with them, because it's a big decision you have to make. A wise man in the Army once told me, he says, with ventilator patients and dialysis patients, not going on is better than having to come off. So you really want to have that decision before. Some people go right into dialysis and they stay on for years. I understand that. But some people don't want to go on dialysis. And as our population ages, we're facing that decision much more. I mean, it's becoming more apparent that those decisions will have to be made. Because as you know, your kidneys deteriorate as you age. So there are a lot of elderly people right now that are facing that decision. What do I do? Do I go on dialysis, or is it okay for me to just end my journey and be ready for what's coming?
Right. So when did you retire? What year?
Let's see. I've kind of lost track of time right now. It's 2018, January of 2018.
Okay, so a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the beginnings of Kidney Solutions and what Kidney Solutions is all about.
Well, I think the beginnings, they're a bit clouded. I've been working with kidney patients for years. You know, I've had people that I've helped find a donor. I've had people, I've helped people to make the decision on what they want to do as far as how to get a kidney, when to get a kidney, when to go on dialysis. And I've worked with some great nephrologists. But essentially what happened is that we formed a support group in Kerrville, which I think was a wonderful thing to do, because it brought all transplant patients together, not just kidney, and people looking for kidneys, people looking for transplant. We have in the support group itself, we have 3 heart patients, liver and kidney pancreas, and 4 or 5 kidney patients who've had transplants of kidneys. And it morphed out of that particular development of that support group. And what we do at Kidney Solutions, and the thing that we really try to concentrate on, is preemptive transplant. We want to get people before they go on dialysis. We want to get to them and help them find a donor well before they go on dialysis. And we've been successful at that. We've been able to. I think we've had 5 in the last year and a half, 2 years. 5 people who've never seen dialysis, and they're out in the community now working. Going to go right back to work. Yeah, but then I want to make this perfectly clear. All of our services are free. When you dial us in, and you want help finding a donor, we don't really care where you live. We don't really care if you're on dialysis or what. If you want to seek a transplant, we're going to help you with it. All right. Okay. So that means all comers. And it's like we tell people, don't wait. Start early. Accept your illness, and then once you've accepted it, let's go to work and find a kidney, because that donor's out there. The Lord's going to send them. We know that. And my partner in all of this has been Amanda De Leon, who is a wonderful person. Yeah, and hopefully you'll be able to have her on. I had her on my podcast today, as well as the story that she has, that she gave a kidney to her dad. So everybody at Kidney Solution, right, and excuse me. The whole point with her, our emphasis has always been on getting people successfully transplanted, being there when they're transplanted, and then the follow-up, which I think is even more important than finding the donor. Because once you have that kidney, buddy, it's yours.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that because, full disclosure, people should know that recently, at the end of January, I was down in Texas with you, and we went to meet one of your transplanted patients, a guy named Jason. And I was very surprised when we met and talked to Jason that even after the transplant, you were still working with him. Can you explain what it is that you do for people after the time that you help them obtain a transplant? Because like with Jason, you were worried about his weight.
Like I said, that to me is the most important. Yeah.
Right. Right.
When you have a transplant, that's your first time. If it's your second time, you've got some knowledge. The first time you go around with your transplant, no matter how old you are, you have no clue. And I think back when I was transplanted, I would have killed to have someone to call and talk to about what was going on with me other than the transplant team. All right. Someone that it could say, hey, listen, it's okay. I experienced that. But also you have to temper it with the fact that you're not a doctor. You're not a person that makes medical decisions. Even as an RN, you don't give medical advice. what you tell them is, let's get a hold of your transplant team. Let me make a call for you, or you make the call, and then we'll talk three-way, and I'll help you with it. Or if you want to go down and set an appointment, I'll go with you. Okay, that's kind of the drift that we get. It's a constant contact. Like I said, you got to get rid of me. I'm not going to get rid of you.
Right. What I noticed when you were with Jason and his family is that you're providing a very personalized service.
Yeah.
This is not a remote control kind of thing.
No, it's not a numbers game. We don't do numbers at Kidney Solutions. We do patients. We focus on the patient. All right. And actually, the name patient, I don't like it. I've still not come up with it. Hopefully, maybe somebody in the audience could tell me what we should be calling folks, because they aren't patients. Once they have a transplant, they're walking, talking, working folk.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure, absolutely.
A long time ago, I met a lawyer, Harry Philo, up in Michigan, who was one of the greatest torts lawyers in the United States. And he and his office he wouldn't allow his staff to refer to their clients as clients.
Yeah.
He referred to all of them as friends.
Yep.
And I kind of picked up on that. So maybe that might work for you guys.
Well, we do that. And honest, it's a great lesson for me, and it just proves the fact that they aren't patients. They're not clients. They're people. They're friends. You're exactly right. And it can't. And when you're talking about, quote, kidney friends, one of my kidney friends, how much more personal can that get? Because you've been in it long enough to understand that once you got a kidney disease, you got it for the rest of your life. It don't go away, yes. Right? It just doesn't do it.
That's absolutely right.
And so, consequently, after you've had a transplant, which is not a cure, but it's the best thing going at this present time, and it's affordable, and everybody should be given the opportunity to have one if they need it. But the point is, once you get it, it becomes yours. This kidney I have is not my brother's. Oh, I can say, hey, my brother gave it to me, but it's mine to take care of.
Right.
It's
Yours,
mine.
Absolutely.
It's not his anymore. It's not the doctors. It's not the nurses. It's you, buddy. It's yours. And so it has to become the focus of your life, and you center around it, and you take care of it. And when you're taking care of that, you're taking care of yourself.
Right.
You don't do things to take care of you do things to take care of yourself.
So all this stuff recently about washing your hands and avoiding infection and people that sneeze, that's all old hat to us, right?
Yeah, you've done that your whole life.
Yeah.
If you haven't, you spent most of the time sick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you wash your hands, you keep, and I'm horrible. This idea of keeping your hands off your face, I'm a nervous twit.
Oh my God.
I can't
do you know how many times a day I touch my face?
Yeah. But my hands are clean. All right. I wash my hands and that's just it.
Always every 5 or 10 minutes with soap around my apartment. Sometimes it's Dawn soap. So
let me go
Steve
back.
Got me on. Oh, go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry.
Let me go back just one step and tell you how important it is to have a mentor.
Okay.
I touched on it earlier. All right.
Yeah, it's important. I agree.
We've been, you and I, and then several hundred of other people have always mentored, loved to go and help people, right? That's not the issue.
How many years of kidney experience do you have, Steve? Or Ken, I'm sorry.
I'd like to go back to 1972 when I got out of the Army and got realized I had it in school. I started working with just myself, getting educated up on it. I didn't go into nursing and become a dialysis nurse. I did other things.
Right.
But the point on mentoring, you have a gift now, and if you're taking care of that gift, it's not that I can brag about being 33 years out. It gives people hope.
Yes.
You know that. I'm preaching to the choir here, but
yes, you
hope
are.
is all that people have. That's all kidney disease patients have, because this is going to progress. Doesn't have to go fast. It can. Most of the time it does go pretty fast. You get to that end stage where you have to have a transplant or go on dialysis. But all along, it's nice to realize that you're in charge. You have to realize that. And that person that is the mentor to you just encourages you and points you in the right direction. He doesn't direct your care. You do it. You direct it. It's internal. It's your heart. It's yours. And so you can, yeah. And so that's what I think the most important thing to take away on kidney disease is after the fact, even after you've had dialysis. Who do you go to? If you're on dialysis, you go to people who are on dialysis to tell you what it's like.
Okay. Let's suppose I'm one of your new kidney friends.
Yeah.
Tell me how Kidney Solution works. I'm a new friend in the door. Take my hand and show me how things work from start to finish.
We do an intake first. We get to know you, right? Before we even start talking about transplant, we want to find out as much as we can about your family history. We want to know about you, what you do. Are you working? Are you on dialysis? Are you not? And so it splits off here at this point. But after we get that intake form and kind of make a good relationship with you, then we strike out. If you're going to seek a donor, right? Whether you're on dialysis or you're preemptive, we're going to start with the algorithm. Starts with family, sisters, brothers, mothers, fathers, uncles, anybody in your immediate family, blood related. Those are the ones that we want to get with first. And then after we've talked with them, we want to be able to approach a living donor. All right. Someone in the community, the priest or the pastor or the guy next door, whatever. You want a living organ if you can get it. A living donation is going to last longer, and it's going to. Although a lot of deceased kidneys that come when you're like on the list, they last just a pretty good long time. I don't do numbers, Jim. You know me. I don't do. You're going to get 20 years. The only reason I got 33 is because God intended it that way, and I can tell you, it's a gift. But it's also a point of hope. That's the most important thing. So what we do at Kidney Solutions, Amanda's a perfectionist. She's a videographer, a camerographer. I don't know what it is, but she's a social media nerd. There's nothing she can't pop up.
A little bit about social media.
Yeah, she sure does. And I just back away. I take care of the patients and work with them and get them into her sector so she can do a video on them. And they tell their story. I can give you a number of stories, but she videotapes them. And then we have a website, kidneysolutions.org. And each one of those pictures go up on that, and you shoot them out. We shoot them out. They go out all over social media, Instagram, tell me all. You're the pro at that. Me, I just know it goes up. Somebody sees it and they can call a number. We like them to call us. All right. So that we can kind of keep track. Sometimes,
and what's that number?
My number's it's 830-285-2140. Don't ask me, Amanda, because I have trouble remembering mine. Anyway, it's on the website. Okay.
Okay. So they can contact you by phone, or they can contact you by website.
Yeah, email. All that information's on there. If you go to kidneysolutions.org, boom, you got her done. And then we start. And we don't direct your care. You got to call us. We're not calling you. Okay. Somebody came up the other day. Hey, there's this gal that needs a kidney, and I say, here, give her my card. And I've had people tell me, I've had your card on the desk for 2 weeks. I've had a guy tell me I had your card for 2 months. The doctor gave it to me. The nephrologist said, here, call this guy. He'll help you. And that's how we get a lot of our referrals is through
Right.
the
I was gonna
nephrology.
say,
Yeah.
you get a lot of referrals from doctors, as I understand it.
Yes. We like to say that the best kept secret is a nephrologist. You know, they say they're really busy, and they are. I get that. But you're never too busy to take care of sick people, and they know that, and they're going to do that. We're just going to help them. We're not going to direct them. What we're going to do is help them. Hey, let us take this burden off because we're going to get them in the program quickly. We work directly with the transplant teams. We don't want to do the transplants, but we want to help them get there wherever they want to go. If they want to go to New York to get transplanted, they want to go to Minneapolis, wherever they want to go, that's where we're going to go. All right.
Okay. And my recollection is that there are times actually you go and sit and wait while they're being transplanted, right? You hold the family's hand, that kind of stuff.
Sir. If they ask us to come, we'll come and we'll take pictures of it, or we'll just be with them. And I like to stick my nose in the intensive care unit when they come out, like I've done with Jason and like 5 or 6 other people that I've been working with. I want to see these transplant programs. Hey, let me tell you, the ones we got in San Antonio, the 2 we have in San Antonio University and Methodist, they're perfectionists. They are great, and they embrace the patient. And you get a transplant programs that embrace patients. Wow, what can I say?
Well,
that's exactly what you want, and they encourage us to talk with the patients. So.
Right. I noticed when we went to visit Jason in the hospital, the first thing you did was give him a physical exam. I'm glad you didn't examine me because I probably wouldn't have passed.
I want to know because if there's something going on. Yeah. And then and I tell them up front, we have their permission, and our name is on their medical record. They give us permission to be there because it's a HIPAA violation. And I'm proud of the fact that we're in there taking care of. We're just another pair of eyes. We're not there to direct care. We're just another pair of eyes.
Okay.
And if I'd have had that, I would have been great. That's why I want to do this.
Goes without saying, when I first went on dialysis, I remember asking the director, the clinic, how soon can I get a transplant? And basically, the response I got was, you're on dialysis for 4 or 5 years here in Indiana, and after the 4 or 5 years, maybe. There was no discussion, no mention of preemptive transplant at all. And I was on dialysis 2012. That's long after 87? You said
87, yeah, 1987.
You had that discussion with the doctor.
Yeah.
So, what you're doing is kind of cutting edge stuff. What do you envision as the future for transplant solutions? What would you like to see happen in the future?
I'd like to, I'm going to say this just bluntly. I would like the nephrologist community to step up and work with like our group and get patients to us long before they're in stage 4 or stage 5, or they get a call. We get a call from them in the intensive care unit. They want to get a kidney. No, if we have someone that's healthy, relatively healthy, stage 4 is, anytime you have, before you have to make that decision, you're living with the health you've been given. You're going to have to live with it. And so the sooner you can get that donor ready, okay, you can find that donor and they can get approved. You can walk in there and say, I've got a donor. I don't need to go on any list. I don't need to be. I want to do this now. And when can I get a date? When can we get this done? There's nothing wrong with being on the list except time. You don't have time. When you're stage 3, stage 4, and when you're stage 4 and 5 and headed towards renal failure, time is of the essence.
Yes.
And sometimes people don't realize that in the medical profession. They just think, well, we'll deal with it as it comes along. But me as a patient, holy mackerel, I want my foot on the pedal, the gas pedal, not the brake pedal.
Right. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay. One more line of questioning I wanted to talk to you about. You mentioned a podcast that you did a podcast today. Tell us a little bit about your podcast and what it is that you do and how does that work?
I have to laugh, Jim, because somebody told me early on after I retired, you got to have a hobby. But I don't. The only thing I do is fish and do honeydews. That's about all. That's the hobbies I have, and I'm not very good at either one of those. And my daughter told me, my oldest daughter said, "Hey, Dad, you can yak with the best of them. You ever think about doing a podcast about kidney solutions?" I said, "What's a podcast?" I had no clue. So she sat me down and I listened to a podcast of a lady who had one child. My daughter has just one child, and that was all she talked about.
You have two daughters,
yeah, two daughters,
for the record, right?
Yes, yeah, and 4 grandchildren. Okay, so I listened to that gal, and holy mackerel! The next thing I know is I'm digging into it, and I happened to ask Jason. He had a podcast. I said, "Jason, do you think you could teach me how to do a podcast?" Oh yeah, and I'm hooked. I can't believe it. I do it every day if I had a chance, because I can.
How many have you done so far?
Today, the one I did today was number 14. It doesn't sound like many, but that's quite a few. We try to get them out every 2 weeks, week to 2 weeks, and a lot of stuff now is timely, so we like to get them out pretty quick. But the key to podcasts, and I will tell you, it's Kent's, KENT''S, Kidney Stories. Kent's Kidney Stories.
What a great name.
And well, you know what it lets me do? I can do it anywhere. I did a podcast the other day when I was doing, I walk every morning, 3.5 miles every morning.
Right,
and I actually did a podcast on my phone about whose kidney is it? Is it your kidney, or is it your brother's kidney, or is it the person that died in the auto accident and that kidney you got? Whose kidney is it? Is it yours, or is it theirs, or who's the owner of that kidney?
Right.
And I had a great time with it. All right, because you can't go wrong. You can give misinformation, which I try not to do. But if somebody would call me and say, "Hey, that's not true. What you said's not true," I say, "Okay, give me the proof and I'll resend it and I'll fix it." I don't worry about what I say. I worry about getting it said.
Right.
There's the difference between worrying about what you say, because if your heart is in this program and you've got enough experience in it, you don't give bad information. You check it out. But that's my hobby now. That's my hobby. I don't have to fish and do honeydews, I don't think.
Well, you could do a little fishing. I think you're up there at the cabin this weekend doing a little.
We're going in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Listen, Jim, I know you're wanting to wind up here. This is your first one. I hope this whole thing just explodes and you get hundreds and thousands of people. And when you run out of people to interview, call me. I'll give you some more names.
Okay. Well, I
support
that.
you. I support you. And thank you to Steve for letting us come on. Holy mackerel. What a wonderful guy. What an opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. And my good friend, Kent Bressler, who I have to tell everybody, he's on the board of directors with the AAKP, and he's a terrific advocate. Sometime we'll have to talk about advocacy and getting in front of your legislators, your members of Congress, and talking to them about kidney issues and potential kidney laws and the ins and outs of that, and it would be fascinating for he and I to have that exchange, because it's something that he and I talk about all the time when we work together. So
nothing better than working with somebody who understands what's going on, and you do that. And kidney patients, right? It's all about them. It isn't about the numbers, how many people listen to you. It's not about how many people get transplant. Oh, that's all important. I guess analytics are important, but you know what's more important than anything? is that you can get somebody to listen and you can help somebody. And that patient listens when they're getting good information, sound information, and periodic, not occasional, periodic information.
Agreed.
Be a mentor. If you want to help somebody and you have the disease, get out there. I challenge you
Absolutely.
to find somebody to help. That's all I
You know,
got to say.
Groups that I advocate with, the National Kidney Foundation, the AAKP, the American Kidney Foundation, the National Kidney Foundation of Indiana. You do have to go out there and give of yourself. That's very, very important. And if you have young advocates that come to you and ask for help or need guidance, or you get people, because I'm a loudmouth. Talking in front of groups has never bothered me. So if you get people that are a little bit shy or a little bit concerned, you're an older advocate, hold their hand, take them under your wing, make sure that they understand. Don't be afraid to mentor somebody, because you've been many times that you give somebody a little boost, a little confidence, a little experience, and all of a sudden they take off.
Absolutely.
They do things on their own that are amazing, and help kidney patients. And that's
all we
that's
want
why
to
we're
do,
here.
isn't
That's
it?
what we want to do.
Yeah, isn't that? That's the point, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Like I said, it hasn't done anything to do with analytics. All it has to do with is people.
Right.
And kidney patients need to be heard, and they want to be heard, and it's up to you to help them be heard. All right? So be a mentor.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy.
All right. I will let you go, bud. I appreciate you taking time. We'll have you back real soon. He has a compelling story. Trust me. We didn't get in. I'm saving it for later, but I'm telling you, this is one of the greatest kidney stories in the history of kidney stories, and we can get him to really. So
I'll be ready.
I'm
You
going to say goodnight. All right. I'm going to say goodnight to my friend Kent, and I promised I would talk a little bit about legal stuff with Steve. So I want to talk about the Drug Coverage for Kidney Transplant Patient Act, House Resolution 5534, and some new developments there, and then we'll wind up the show. Kent, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Good job tonight, buddy.
Same to you.
All right. Take care. Right. Say hi to Kathy for me.
Will do. Good luck.
Kathy.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. There's me touching my face. Okay. Man, interesting conversation with Kent Bressler tonight. And Steve's got me, he wants me to talk about, can you believe this? The guy wants me to talk about politics and the law and things like that. Unbelievable that somebody would actually put me on the air to do that. So I wanted to talk to you tonight about the immunosuppressant bill a little bit. Just to recap, for those of you that are not in the know, when you're transplanted, regardless of your age, and if you're Medicare eligible, and if you're end-stage renal disease, you are Medicare eligible, Medicare will cover your immunosuppressant medication, your anti-rejection medication, the medication that keeps your body from rejecting that strange foreign thing that's in it, your new transplanted kidney, which is keeping you alive and keeping you off of dialysis. But when they passed that law, they made a compromise. And the compromise was that Medicare would only cover this if you're Medicare eligible for the first 36 months after your transplant. After that, the theory was your insurance coverage would pick up and cover it the rest of the way. And if there was a deductible or a small payment, the patient would be responsible for that. The way things have worked out is that many people end up not being Medicare eligible because of their age. They're not, for example, 65 or 66 Your Uncle Jim is 65, for example, and yeah, I'm an elderly guy, I guess. And if you're not Medicare eligible at that time, then you lose Medicare's blessing to continue to pay for your anti-rejection medication after the first 36 months. And groups like the AAKP and groups like the National Kidney Foundation and groups like the American Kidney Fund have all been pursuing this at least for a decade, maybe more, on and off for a period of time to try and get Congress to pass legislation so that the Medicare coverage for your anti-rejection medication is for the life of your transplant as opposed to just 36 months, which was a compromised random figure that they chose at the time. A couple of months back, there was testimony that was given in front of the Energy, Commerce, Health Subcommittee in the House about the immunosuppressant drug bill. And it went very, very well. The National Kidney Foundation had a physician that testified on their behalf. I saw it live. You know, your Uncle Jim is kind of a political junkie, so I had to watch that. I saw it live. He did a great job of expressing the problem, and they reminded me, your immunosuppressant medication, if you're a kidney transplant patient, you have to take that every day. You have to take it at the same time every day. And for mine, for example, I take twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening, without fail. You cannot run out. You cannot take a lesser dosage. If you do that, you run the risk of rejection. But at any rate, back to the legal stuff now. The Energy, Commerce, Health Commission Subcommittee, that testimony went extremely well. The members of the committee were very complimentary. The lady that heads the committee said, you know, this is a no-brainer. This is something that should get to the floor. It should pass. Now, yesterday was World Kidney Day, and that kind of took up all of the kidney news. And you know, that's great to raise awareness for kidney disease, to let people know that they should go in and get tested. Simple couple of tests. Take a blood test, take a urine analysis. It's not a big deal. Knowledge is power when it comes to knowing about kidney disease. It's easier on you if they find out early. If you get early detection and early treatment, I'm a very good example about that. Some show in the future, I'll sit down and tell you my experience, but trust me, because of that, my dialysis went a lot easier. I was always a transplant candidate. My transplant has gone a lot easier. My post-transplant has been easier simply because PKD runs in my family. And when I was diagnosed, my family physician said, you know, we're getting you help the kidney doctors down there, the nephrologists down there, and they're going to take good care of you. And I was detected early and treated in my life, and I want that for us. But at any rate, big step in the right direction. Yesterday, that was kind of hidden in the news. The Energy, Commerce, Health Subcommittee universally passed the Drug Coverage for Kidney Transplantation Act, HR 5534. That's an important step. So it goes now to the full committee for what they refer to as markup. Now, markup is kind of back in the bad old days, they would physically take the law, make suggestions, mark it up, red ink all over the place. Because of the things that were said during the testimony that was given in front of that subcommittee, most of the major kidney organizations feel that this law will pass through the entire committee, and then we'll have the opportunity to be voted on by the entire House on the floor sometime soon. The dates, are kind of iffy right now because of the virus. But this is a big deal that was kind of sort of missed yesterday. The fact that it passed through the subcommittee is something new, and hopefully, fingers crossed by your Uncle Jim and you, I hope, fingers crossed that this will pass through the entire committee, that it will see the light of day, that it will hit the floor for a vote, and the members of the House will vote to pass the Drug Coverage for Kidney Transplant Patient Act. So, and there's also a version that's pending in the Senate. So hopefully we'll get that through before the end of the year. And from now on, when you get a transplant, your transplant will be covered by Medicare for the life of the transplant. Now, why is this important? Wrote down a few figures just so you can understand. Right now, if you're on dialysis, Medicare pays for dialysis the whole time that you're on, by the way. It's $86,000 a year per patient, okay, per year. And they cover all that. They pay that. For your transplant, initially up front, they pay about $100 grand, and to support it on average, the years after that, it's about $25,000 a year. So notice there's almost a $75,000 a year difference. Your medications alone, your anti-rejection medications alone, are estimated to cost, and it differs depending on the medication that you take, how much of it you take. So this is an average. So if yours is more than this or less than this, it's not that the kidney foundations don't know what they're talking about. What they're giving you an average here, okay? So they're talking about $2,300 a year on average. So what happens to a kidney patient when their kidney rejects? When their kidneys reject, sometimes they die, to be honest. Most of the time, they go back on dialysis, and Medicare is then spending this extra money, $86K a year compared to $2,300 a year. So recent studies have shown that you're saving approximately $300 million over the course of like 10 years to Medicare by simply maintaining your transplant. So this is why this legislation is important. And, I have many, many friends that have had transplants that they couldn't afford to pay for the medication. They tried to ration it, take lesser amounts than what the doctor prescribed, stretch it out, you know what I mean, and lost their kidney. And this is truly a tragedy to the individual. It's just hard on the individual. So we want that law to pass. We want people to feel secure in their transplants, because all of us have that anxiety. Okay, all of us have that rejection anxiety, and we want people to be taken care of. And not only that, but it's a cost-saving measure. Okay, so I'm getting near my 60 minutes here. So I just want to thank Steve for giving me the opportunity to talk to you, to have my friend Kent on, to speak to you about his group. I want to thank everybody that came tonight and listened and checked me out. Please share, and let's spread the word around. And Steve and I will let you know when we're going to do the next show. I'd like to talk about the coronavirus, the next show. And I am looking for guests. So if you would like to come on, give Uncle Jim a ring, contact me on Facebook, send me a message. I'd love to have you. Okay, everybody, you take care, and good night. We'll talk soon.